Well, how the hell are you, Denall?
I'm good.
I'm with Denall Rife here from here in Albuquerque, and she is the drag racing queen, and she's going to be our feature here for our Gearhead section at Two Sunday for Hank. So tell us what's happening. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. What's going on over there on lockdown?
Right. Well, I'm working still, so I work for a credit union, so that means we're essential. So that means we are working, and so I'm grateful for that. I still have a job and I'm able to do it safely. So I'm there and I'm doing it.
Good.
And then Pat's still working too. So we are, still in business and basically taking the downtime as an opportunity to work on the secret project that Pat's working on that we're going to reveal when it's all done. He probably won't want me to take any pictures of it, but he's building a race car himself. So we'll have 2 race cars soon.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about the car. Tell us about your car.
Well, I have a 76 Camaro that actually started its life as my husband's first car he ever bought when he was 15.
Wow.
That's cool. It started off as a 6-cylinder Camaro RS, and then he put a tow hitch on the back of it and spent his summers cruising around mowing lawns in order to make money to pay for it. So then he spent some time in high school in auto shop painting it, and eventually put a 350 small block in it, and he raced it for years and years. And I could get him here if he'll come out. I could get him to tell you all about that history. And eventually it got to where he and I got together back in 2004, and then eventually here in the past 5 or 6 years or so, we decided that I was going to start racing and he was going to build a different car. So I've been racing now a few years, and so I sort of got to take over his race car that he had built since he was 15. So
Very
to
cool.
me, I just, it's just one of those things that's just such a neat part of our family now that I'm just so thrilled to be able to drive it. And the cool thing about it is, if I really wanted to, I could drive it around on the street, except for really the tires. It's pretty much 100% street legal.
Huh. That's pretty cool. So how often do you do that? Drive it around the neighborhood or whatever to get groceries?
Not as often as I would like to, but I mean, Pat will drive it around to test and go, it runs on E85, so we're able to get E85 gas at, a couple gas stations here in town. Although we do buy it, just so because we can get a good mix of it if we buy it from a race gas source. But nonetheless, I mean, he'll drive it around to test it if he's worked on it. We drove it to the Spartan Designs car show last year for Cinco de Mayo, which God willing might still happen this year, although it might be a little delayed later in the year. I'm hoping those guys are able to have an event again this year. But we did drive it all the way from our house on the west side all the way down to the North Valley and back. And so we also drove it in the all-out call-out a couple years ago, which was driving it all the way from the pit parking lot at UNM, the pit, basketball arena, all the way down to the drag strip, kind of the long way, and it did just fine. So every now and then we get it out there.
That's cool. It's not, I imagine it's probably not very fuel economic, I'm guessing, right?
No, it gets about one.
About one?
About 1 mile a gallon. Maybe a little better than that if you're just cruising. But I know when we're racing, we literally get about 1 mile a gallon, and it probably gets about 4 or 5, maybe if you're just, tootling around. So yeah, not that great.
So, let's see here. I had some other questions. Do you remember your first race? Were you guys able to go and practice and and do some of that without having to actually compete right away? Is there a
Oh
way to
yeah.
is there a way to do that down there at Duke City Dragway?
Yeah. So the great part about the dragway is anyone can go and drive whatever they want as long as it's reasonably legal. So if you have a typical street legal car, you can go make passes. And so that's really kind of how I started. So before I started driving the Camaro that I'm driving now, I was driving just my personal car. So I had a Pontiac G6 for a while, and then I have a 2011 Buick, and I would just drive that car just in Sportsman and just try to, see if I could do it. And then once I started racing in the Camaro, yeah, there's test and tune nights, so you can go out and just buy a tech card and make as many passes as you want. So yeah, I did that a few times for sure, just to kind of get used to it, because it takes some getting used to with the car drives a little different from your typical car, so it takes a little getting used to.
So can you tell us a little bit about your first race? Obviously, clearly you remember your first race, your
Yeah,
first
so
entry, and
yeah, I mean, I just felt like I was in over my head, I mean, you see all these guys out there that I've known for years and years that just are really great at driving and winning, and so yeah, it was a little intimidating, but really you just kind of put all that aside and just focus on what you're doing in that moment, and then you do it a few times. But it was just the first time that I had another car in the other lane, and we're going 120 miles an hour next to each other. It was a little, it's a little bit, you end up when you're done, you got the cold hands and you're a little shaky and you're like, wow, I just did that. So
that's
it's
cool.
definitely cool. And the thing is that even a few years down the road, that kind of doesn't go away. It still is kind of there. It's pretty cool because every pass is a little different, and there's always, I feel like I learn a little bit every time.
How many passes, just give or take, do you think that you've made now that since you started? How many entrants have you made since you started racing?
Wow, that's a good question. So I raced probably a couple of full seasons, which is about 7 or 8 races a season. Gosh, I should know those numbers, right? Um, yeah, so really, if I added it all up, there's kind of not that many, because you go out and it's, 8 races a year or so, and then if you do well, you have 5 or 6 actual races in the whole elimination. So yeah, it's kind of funny if you think about it. There's kind of not that many, but that's why it's such an interesting game, really, because each pass is 10 seconds or so. And so when you really think about how much experience you really have, I mean, all day long, if you make 6 passes, you've got maybe a minute, minute and a half driving the car.
You don't even have a full day under your belt
Right,
with this racing business.
right. So, but it's funny how those 10 seconds are like the longest 10 seconds because there's so much that happens.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So what happens after you do a pass? What happens to the car after that? Bring it into the pit, and then is it ready to go for the next one, or you got to tinker with it some more, or how does some of that work?
So the nice part about our particular car, the way we have it set up, is we just run a Chevy LS aluminum motor. And so the nice thing about that is that it's really based on a Corvette motor, like you would get in a Corvette vehicle off of the dealer lot. So with having an alternator and a radiator, it really doesn't need a whole lot because it's really built to be driven. So it's not your sort of typical, really super specialized drag race motor. So we don't have to do a lot. We plug it in to recharge the battery. You know, we make sure that it's nice and cool. We check the tires. We maybe make some adjustments to, um, you know, we have shocks, you know, traction issues, that kind of thing. We maybe might make some adjustments. But we don't have to do a lot. But there are cars, you know, that run either different setups than we do, or are a lot bigger and faster than we have, that have to do a whole lot of work in between. So we don't have a lot. We kind of set ourselves up to be able to have kind of a chill day. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
What's it? Tell us about last season. How did you last season? I went out there a couple times to see you.
Yeah, so last season we didn't go out that much last season, but I did get out for I think about 4 or 5 races, and you know we really just kind of went out to just kind of have some fun on those days. You know, I really wasn't trying to go for the whole points thing or you know whatever. We were just trying to kind of enjoy racing along with doing a lot of other things last year. So last year we didn't kind of, you know, kind of focus on the whole, you know, getting to the end game of having the whole points. I had done that the year prior, and that was a great time. I ended up about, I think I was 8th in points, and I did win a race. So, you know, Pat and I have matching bookends for our little trophies. So I have one here. Hold on. Right. Here's Pat winning in 2015, right?
Very cool.
Yeah, and then here's me winning in 2017. So we have our matching bookends here. So that was fun, and so I hope we can get some more. I hope I can get some more of those. Hold on just a second. There we go. Sorry. I hope I can get some more of those this year. Of course, this year I was planning on doing a whole season, and then everything happened. So we should have been racing today and tomorrow, but
So that season just started. I would have started, I guess, about 2 weeks ago. Is that correct?
yeah. So the first race actually happened on, I think it was like March 15th or so. I'd have to look at the calendar, but yeah, it was about 2 weeks ago, and I raced that one, and I did a couple of passes, and or made it. I think I lost in Bella. Hold on. Apparently, there are unauthorized people walking on the sidewalk.
Oh.
You're fine. So anyway, so we were so you know I had a great day, and I went like 3 rounds before I ended up losing, which was okay. You know, that's an okay day really. And so then but then now here we are. You know, it would have been the second race this weekend, and unfortunately the whole thing's postponed and completely up in the air.
So does that drag way do every like once a month, or how does that work throughout the season?
Yeah, usually the season is about once a month there's a race. So yeah, they usually run it about every 3 to 4 weeks. There's an actual race. And then, well, they have points races that are, you know, the bracket races where everyone that's sort of trying to get the points championship will race. But then also in between that, they'll have other races that maybe aren't a points race, but are just sort of fun. Like they'll have, you know, like the truck shootout or the hot rod rumble, things like that, where it's not necessarily for our track points races, but it's still a race where you could go out, enter your car if it fits the sort of criteria that they're looking for that day, you know, the type of vehicle that they're trying to showcase. And you can still go out and, you know, maybe win some money and maybe win a trophy. So there's other events other than just the bracket races as well that folks participate in. And then twice a year there's the all out call out, which is a huge big deal. Tons and tons of cars and people come out, and that one's really interesting because all the cars are supposed to be streetable cars, which means they have to be, you know, registered, insured, and that's the point of sort of running from some point in town on down to the track, is to prove that the vehicle really can run on the street, and then you're supposed to get there, not make any changes, make your first pass after having driven, 15 miles, which, a typical drag car is not able to do. So they try to kind of, you know, weed it down to really streetable cars. So that can be a really interesting and fun race. And man, there's a lot of people, and it goes all night long. And that's really a big thing. If you can ever get a chance to go see one of those, it's really an intense thing.
So, I understand a little bit about it because I've been hanging around that dragway for, a couple of times a year for a long time now. But tell us how the points work. How do you win or how do you lose in a drag race? I think a lot of people don't really understand that.
Right. So with the race itself, there's basically you have to get there first. And so I think everyone kind of understands that piece of it. But a lot of the time with a bracket race, what you're doing is you're running two cars that everyone knows are going to consistently be one slower than the other one. So, for example, my car will typically run an 11:43 in the quarter mile, and my opponent might be running an 11:23. So that means that I have 200ths of a second slower car. And so I'm always going to lose if we leave at the same time. So what we do is we index those two cars and basically give the slower car a head start. And that's the idea of the lights that come down. And when the lights come down, if you are bracket racing, you'll notice that one car gets to leave first. And that's that car getting a head start. And so when you leave, you have to be sure and not leave before the light turns green. Because if you leave before the light turns green, then you foul and you lose. So that's one way to lose, is to leave too early based on the light. So when everyone leaves when they're supposed to, both cars should end up at the end of the track at the same time. That is, unless for some reason, maybe my car ran a little too fast and I went a little bit faster than 11:43. Well, if I go a little bit too fast, I could actually lose based on that. That's the idea with the index race, is that if you're going to get a head start, you can't be fibbing too much. So, so that's kind of the idea with that, is if you're going to run an 11:43, you better run an 11:43, because if you go too fast, you also get to lose. So that's why you might see a car actually get there first and still lose the race in a bracket race. So there are races that do run, just heads up racing, where both cars are just trying to see who can go fastest. And that's what they do with some of the other classes, like the Pro Mods, for example, and the Outlaw Door Slammers and those kind of guys. They'll be running just heads up, see who can go fastest. So other ways you can lose is if you happen to leave your lane. That's another way to lose. Or also you could actually leave really late. That's the other thing too, is if you wait too long to leave, then obviously that person, despite the indexing, is going to have way too much of a head start, and basically you lose by leaving too late. So
Got it.
yeah, so then of course the points are literally that you get points for every round you win throughout the year, and you get bonus points for certain things like winning or runnering up. And so all those points added up at the end of the year, whoever has the most points is the track champion.
Cool. Very cool. So you're hoping that'll pick back up and you're going to try it again this year?
I'm hoping so. I really do. Really, as far as kind of racing, I'm really kind of a rookie in a way, because everyone that I'm out there against has been racing for 10, 15, 20, 30 more seasons. So I have a lot of catching up to do myself. I mean, there's even there's young girls in my class that actually grew up junior dragsters. So there's a couple girls in my class that really have been racing about 4 or 5 times as long as me, even though they're 22. So the competition it's good competition out there. So I'm hoping to get back out there.
But is everybody really friendly to one another out there at the track?
Yeah, we really are. I mean, for the most part, we are just a huge family. I mean, we've all been, I've been going to the track since the late 90s. My husband has been going out there since he was a teenager. We've all known each other for decades. And so, we're all just friends and, miss each other right now and are just happy to get out there and see each other every time we race. And so it really is just a great, it's a great family thing to get out there. Not that there's not, now and then, folks will get in a tiff, they'll get mad at each other or think that somebody did something they shouldn't have, and everyone will get upset, and yeah, then we'll see each other the next week and we'll be right back out there again.
Yeah, back to racing.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
So just a couple more things. Tell us a little bit about Pat's role in your racing and how you guys as a couple work all that out, and what's the deal with that? Pat is Denall's husband, so.
Yeah, so really I can only do this because of Pat. So he has, he builds the cars. I mean, ground up. You have to come and, see these things really to appreciate it. But I mean, he's built my car, the car that I drive, from the ground up. He's painted it. He's currently, building the motor for his other car that he's building, that he's also built from the ground up. I mean, he's just an amazing craftsman. And then he's taught me, so he's kind of my coach and my, kind of, crew chief. So, he will do the work on the car, and then he'll help me try to understand maybe what I might have done wrong, if something, if I didn't do something right. And then the flip side of that is learning how to communicate when, if there's something maybe going on with the car, or we think something's not quite right, I have to try to understand what's going on and try to communicate that to him so he can figure it out, because obviously he's not in it with me when I'm driving. So yeah, his role is just huge. I mean, I really couldn't do it without him. So I mean, it's a huge, team effort, and it's really just, it's really his support that lets me do it. So
I got a funny question about that with Pat. Is his garage really, really messy, or is it the opposite?
no, he's very extremely organized. Is very, very organized. Like it is like, who touched my hammer? You moved it. Like, seriously. Or like, if you take something out of the toolbox, like, he'll know it, and then he'll be like, where is it? What did you do? Like, he'll go out there for like a box cutter or something, and he'll notice like it's gone. Oh, sorry, I left it in the kitchen. Don't take my tools and put it back. Like,
That's funny. Very, very cool.
but he knows exactly where everything is and exactly where it's not when it's not there. So yeah. And the flip side,
I kind of thought that about him, which
yeah,
is really why I wanted to ask.
right.
I sometimes wonder if it takes a messy garage to turn out a really fast car, or if it's
Right.
it's got to be clean and neat and ready to rock and roll every time you come back
I know
home.
in our case, yeah, it's very clean and neat, but it's also stacked like Tetris because we don't have a whole lot of space. So, it's kind of a Tetris game where everything goes, and, if you open the cabinet, watch out, it might fall out on you. That's not to say, though, that I haven't, things do sometimes occasionally spill into the house, too. So, I mean, I think before I had a house guest recently, I had a parachute laying out on my guest bed for quite some time. So that happens. But, it's just laundry like everything else. So we just left it there for a while.
So, Two Sunday for Hank is more or less about music. And so, with that being said, tell me a little bit about what you're listening to, what's happening with that. I kind of know your taste in music a little bit. Was there anything new right now that you've been listening to, or that you want people to know about, hear about from you?
I listen to lots of stuff. So I love country music because that's how I grew up with that. And then on the other flip side of my coin is I'm a big metalhead, right? So my favorite band ever is Motorhead. And I love Motley Crue. I mean, don't tell anybody, but I did cry when they played Home Sweet Home at the farewell concert. So I was a little mad that they played me and went on tour again. I'm like, dude, that was supposed to be farewell. Like, come on. So,
Yeah.
but bands I'm listening to now, I'm really actually getting into what are people I know doing. So I sent you a link earlier of some guys I know in Colorado doing some blues. And I have another friend up there that's in a band called Stone Deaf that you guys need to come out when they are on tour. They come through. They usually try to do a little mini tour, a couple times a year. So they come through here now about once or twice a year lately. Of course, right now everything's paused. But so if you can come out and see them, and then there's this killer band that I saw that they played with at the launch pad called Mezzoa. That's Mezzoa, and they're out of San Diego, and they're just just killer group. So I'll have to send you some YouTube examples of that stuff just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But it's just kind of cool, just like groove rock and, just really just, I don't know, tasty stuff.
Very cool. So the link that you sent me is Ricky D. Bates, and they're out of Colorado. Is that what you said?
So Ricky Bates is a blues singer out of Colorado, and he's friends with some good friends of mine, and they play together. Guy Carl Coops and Kelly Chemister, they play a lot together. And then Stone Deaf is a friend of mine. His name's Dustin Chapin, and he's got that group, and then yeah. So I'll send you some links, and it's just really good stuff, and it's such fun to have people that I know, much like you, that are just doing such great things with music, and I don't know, it's just so much better to me to listen to that stuff and see what's really coming up rather than kind of whatever's being said on the radio.
Very cool. Well, thank you for your time, and I wish you the best of luck on the track. I hope this little storm blows over sooner rather than later. I really do. I hope everybody out there stays safe and happy and healthy. And thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to seeing you. We'll go support you out on the track this summer when it warms back up and everything gets moving along again.
Well, great. I'll let you know for sure when it's game on again.
All right. Sounds good.
See you out there. Love you. Love you guys. All right. Bye.